We Are Not Your Kind by Slipknot. One of the most anticipated albums has finally hit our Spotify's, our music stores, our everything, and now we are able to finally check it out. I have a full album reaction on my Patreon. If you want to support that, you can check that out. I also have a couple of reactions up on my channel as well. I expected it to be something good because with the amount of build-up, amount of hype there was around it, they just had no right not to write a good album. Another perfect signal for me that this album was going to be good is not inclusion of the song All Out Life, which was a fantastic song. And that for me was a perfect signal that this album was going to be something good. And I was right. This album is great. There are a lot of problems with it, however, so let's start with the problems. It is 14-track album, 3 out of which are sort of like intros and interludes, so technically 11 tracks, and it's a pretty long album. There's a lot of long songs, like 6 minutes and above, but most of that time is consumed by intros and outros, which I guess adds to fluidity of the whole experience. It's kind of very smooth transitioning album, which is a fun thing if you listen back to back, but if it ends up being shuffled on your playlist, it's a bit annoying, but that's a minor concern. The biggest concern I have with this album is how long it takes to get to something. It's an important distinction between something being boring and something taking its time. I don't think this album is boring. It's not boring whatsoever. There's no boring parts of this album. It may feel like that because there's so much time taken by intros, outros, versus that you just kind of get lost in it, expecting something. And that those expectations slowly go lower. It's hard to explain, but I feel like they could have done a little more concise tracks that would be a little shorter, but instead would have a bit more content. I guess that's the main concern I have with the album. It's also because of a lot of repetitiveness in the album. There's a lot of repeated parts. The biggest problem is the amount of choruses. I think the chorus is effective if it's repeated only twice in the song, or maybe 3 times at most, and every single time it sounds a bit different. And here in a couple of songs, like for example Orphan, chorus plays like 4 or 5 times, and by the 5th time you're already bored because you know how it sounds. There's no deviation from it. It just kind of goes from A to B. So that's biggest concerns. It takes a long damn time to get somewhere, and there's a lot of repetition. Now to the good parts. This album is probably one of the most experimental and interesting creative music pieces this year, and because it's Slipknot, something that I would say is very formulaic and very standard to their sound, I was so surprised to hear songs like Spiders or A Liar's Funeral or My Pain, because they sounded so unique, so original, and so out of musical comfort zone from Slipknot. I was just blown away by those songs, and I'm gonna come back to songs in details because I have stuff to say about every single song. But yeah, those songs were very creative, and even songs like Nero Forte or Red Flag or Critical Darling, they do have still a very standard Slipknot sound, but they are creatively written. It's a really, really good thing about this album. There's a lot of creativity and thought put into it. I think my favorite song of the album is either Unsainted, or if we don't count singles, it would be either Not Long for This World or A Liar's Funeral. A Liar's Funeral is a very unusual Slipknot song. It's kind of a ballad, but at the same time it's very industrial, heavy metal track. There's also a track called Spiders, which very much impressed me. It sounds like a haunted house theme song. It's very mysterious and vicious. There's songs like Orphan. Orphan is another great track. In general, this album is very, very good at accomplishing one very important thing to all of us metalheads: headbanging. Because the drums on this album, complemented with awesome bass and awesome guitars, they all sound so thick, so fat. That's a 10 out of 10 right there for the instrumental. When it comes to vocals, on this album he sounds just like on any other album. Not much variety. There's cleans, there's screams, standard Corey Taylor. He's an awesome singer, don't get me wrong. And by me saying standard Corey Taylor, it's actually a constatation of a fact. He is as great as always on this album. This album, it feels a bit long. It feels a bit prolonged. It feels a bit stretched out. If it was more concise, more short and like straight to the point, it would have been much better, in my opinion. And I guess I'll have to come back to this album every now and then, and to just kind of see how those songs affect me the more I listen to them, because it happens a lot. Like, I could listen to some album, I could really like it, and then a month later I could hate it, and vice versa. So I'm expecting this album to wear really good on me, to grow on me. As of now, I think it's a fantastic Slipknot album. If you haven't checked it out, then what the hell are you doing here? It features songs that are so unique to Slipknot sound, like My Pain. It's a fantastic, creative Slipknot album. Something that I was expecting. I was expecting Experiment. I got Experiment. We Are Not Your Kind is an awesome example of great, creative metal music. Go check it out. It's definitely worth your time. And that's it. That's it for today. Thank you all for watching. Support me on Patreon if you want to. Let me know what you think about We Are Not Your Kind by Slipknot.